Hey guys, it's Shannon, and today I'm here to answer your questions. So I asked you guys to send me your questions, and I'm going to answer those today. I also have some very frequently asked questions that I'm going to go ahead and answer as well. But I'm going to start with your questions. So the first question I have here is from Dolls Maria, and she says, love your channel a lot, which thank you very much. Would you do a home tour of your home? Not a holiday, just your style, which seems farm/rustic, thank you. Actually, I do plan to do a just general home tour. I have quite a few more projects that I've been working on to give my house that more farmhouse rustic look, which this piece behind me here is one of them. So that'll be another DIY video coming up, but I'll also be doing a home tour, so make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss out on that. And then the next question comes from Mary, who asks, why did you start a YouTube channel? I'm seriously considering it, but I'm afraid. Well, I started this channel because, I actually started this channel about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and I just kind of wanted to be able to help people learn how to do some tips and tricks on DIY projects. I got a little too far into it. I wanted to make it more professional looking, which I was never really happy with, so I kind of gave up for a little while. My channel started to grow on its own, so I decided I do all these projects all the time. I have clients who request custom orders, and I thought, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and videotape them. It might help somebody, it may not. But if it helps one person, then it was worth it for me to put the effort into creating a DIY video. So that's kind of how I got back into it last fall. And I'm so glad I did, because you guys have been so great. I have been able to talk with a lot of people. I actually learned things myself through this, which has been wonderful, but I'm so glad that I'm actually able to help some of you guys too along the way. As far as being afraid to do it, I would say I think everybody's a little bit scared to do it. You're putting yourself out there, and you kind of have to be able to take the criticism along with all the nice, wonderful people that you meet. So definitely be aware of that. But I have tenfold had some wonderful people, women, men even, that have been more than helpful, and so for that I am grateful. And then I also have another question here from Sharon. Actually, I have two questions here from Sharon. She said, what determines when you use acrylic paint or chalk paint on the wood signs? So for me, what determines it is basically the wood that I'm going to be putting it on. If I have a rough surface, then I kind of tend to go towards the chalk paint more, because it's thicker and it's got more of an adhesion than the acrylic paint, so it's less likely to bleed underneath the stencils. So I end up using chalk paint a lot more lately, especially if I'm using palette wood versus new wood. I do still like to use acrylic paint. It's got a nice, normal acrylic paint doesn't have a shine to it. Most of the time it's a matte. It's real thin. If you want that rustic look, it's gonna give you less of a coverage than the chalk paint. So it's kind of just depends on the project, I would say. And she also asks, do you seal the wooden painted signs when you are done? And if so, with what? I do not seal my wood signs most of the time. If it is an outside wood sign, like a welcome sign or something that's gonna be going on a porch for decor, then I do absolutely seal them. And a lot of times what I'll use is a matte finish. It's called polyacrylic. It's kind of over by the stain. It's in one of those kind of cans, and I just put a couple coats of that on it. It seals it, it does not yellow, and it will make your signs last longer if they're outside. Now, I do tend to seal wood signs if a client asks, even if it's gonna be inside, or if I know, I don't know, it's another one of those, depends on the situation, but most of the time I don't seal my wood signs if they're for inside. And then I have a question here from Ellen, and she asks, How did you get so handy? Well, that's a whole story in and of itself. I worked at Michael's Arts and Crafts store for 4 years. I was their event coordinator for quite a while, and I was given the job to learn all the new products that came into the store. So the Cricut machine, when it very first came out, there was nothing else like it. I was the one to figure it out and demonstrate it. So I would do demonstrations for the store and for customers. I taught classes. I was in charge of all the instructors that taught the classes. I was in charge of all the events, like the family events and the knitting events and all that kind of thing. And I would definitely say that that prepped me for just not having fear to try new things. Then she goes on to say, seriously, I'm the exact opposite of you. It's an ongoing problem. Thank you for always helping it look easy and fabulous and giving me hope. And I hope that I do, because if you just set that fear aside and you just try it, it might turn out. If you don't try it, you never know. And a lot of this is painting and wood, and you can always sand it off and start over, or you can paint over it and start over. So just set your fear aside and go for it. The next question is from Tori Michelle, and she says, can you share with us tools and how to use them? Perhaps which tools we really need to start making signs and building things with wood. I'm new to all this. My husband works 6 days a week and hasn't had time to do repairs around the house or do my honey-do list. I love to be able to do it myself. Thanks, love your channel. Well, thank you very much. I can completely relate to you. My husband, we've been married almost 13 years now, and for at least 11 of those years, he's worked 6 days a week as well. And so I think that's kind of gotten me into learning to do things myself. I didn't have him around. There were things that needed to be fixed. I wasn't gonna sit around and wait when I didn't really want him to have to do a whole lot of it too, because when he was home, I wanted him to be home and be with the family. So I learned to do things myself because of that too. And then as far as sharing my tools, I actually just videotaped a what tools I use video. So that'll be coming up. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that too. Then I have a question from Debbie who says, what kind of vinyl do you use for your stenciling? I love learning how to with you. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for watching. This is the #1 question that I get in my videos. So I'm sharing with you right now the stencil material that I use. It is called Magic Cover Self-Adhesive Decorative Covering, and this is from Walmart. It's $1.97 for this 9-foot roll at my Walmart. So depending on where you are, my price might differ a little bit. And I will insert a picture here too, so you can see what it looks like on the shelf. So if you're looking for this specifically, then you know what you're looking for in the store. So another question or comment that I get with the stencil material is, why don't I use like regular vinyl? Why don't I use a transfer sheet to put the stencil material onto my project? Why am I picking it up and then having to stick all the little dots and everything in there? Well, the reason for that is this is very low tack. So it's not like regular vinyl. It's not gonna adhere to your surface, especially a painted one or especially a stained one, which has got that oil residue on it. It's just not made to do that. It's made to be removable. I do want to try, and several people have suggested using the vinyl, which is Oracle 631. I only have 651 right now, so I need to order it and try it, where you can actually do that. You can take a carrier sheet and then put it onto your surface, apply it, and then remove it after you're done painting. So I hope that that helps answer your questions about stenciling, but if you have any more, leave them in the comments below and I'd be happy to answer those for you. The next question comes from Rosa, who asks, have you tried wood burning techniques? Now, I'm not sure what type of wood burning you're referring to. I do have a blowtorch that I love It was a anniversary gift from my husband, and I use it to age the edges of my wood signs. It gives it a really, really cool rustic old look to the signs. So I love that, and I've used it, which I just posted a video too. I used it to age some hardware, so I will link that in the description box below too if you want to see me actually using the blowtorch. Only other thing that I have used with wood burning techniques is like the actual handheld wood burner where you can like draw, which I'm not good at all. I'm sure that takes a lot of practice. I do have one of those and I've used it before, but what I actually use my wood burning tool for is to heat seal ribbon. Instead of using a lighter and fire to heat seal ribbon, I use my wood burning tool and I just take the end of the ribbon and I run my wood burning tool down the ribbon so that it doesn't fray on the ends. My next question is from Melissa, and she says, love your channel. Thank you very much. And she also asks, what do you use to take your videos and edit them? I have a Sony camera. It has the screen that flips up. I will insert a picture here with the info on it. My husband did the research. He's the tech guy, so this is what he found for me that wasn't $600 or $800. For my video editing, I have a regular, Dell laptop, so I use Windows Movie Maker to edit my videos. I would love to learn some more about editing, to do some cool different things with my videos, but for right now it's working, so maybe down the road. My last question comes from Sharon, and she asks, should you always Mod Podge the lettering before painting them, and what is the average dry time between? Thanks for all your help. It's awesome of you to answer all the questions. Well, thank you. I'm happy to answer your questions as much as I can. I'm always trying to answer every question down in the comments on the videos because I know, I don't cover every single little detail in my videos. As far as the Mod Podge goes, if you haven't seen this, in some of my earlier videos, you'll see me actually putting Mod Podge on top of the stencils before I put paint on there. And the reason I do that is if I have a surface, like palette wood is very imperfect, even after you sand it, it just has a lot of ripples and holes in it and knots in it and things like that that make it really difficult for the stencil to adhere to and stick to and give you a clean coverage line for you to actually paint on. So when you see me using Mod Podge, just because my surface, as gorgeous as it is, I absolutely love the look of palette wood. I love the imperfections. It's that rustic farmhouse look that's really popular right now, and I love it. It's in my house right now. However, it makes it really difficult whenever you're going in with paint to put on the personalization or the words and that kind of thing. So I use the Mod Podge on top of the stencil because it dries clear, and it helps the edges of your stencil adhere to the wood. So that's not perfect either. You're gonna run into some bleeds still, but it cuts down on a lot of the bleeding that would happen. So you wanna make sure that your Mod Podge, when you put your layer of Mod Podge on top of your stencil, just like you would paint, that it dries completely. I give it, it just depends. Sometimes a half an hour, sometimes an hour. Mod Podge dries pretty quickly, but if you've got some like thick blotches in there, give it enough time to completely dry. You don't want your paint mixing in with it. So once your Mod Podge is dried, then you can go back and do your paint like you usually do. Whether you're using chalk paint or acrylic paint, it just paints right up on top of that Mod Podge. And then when you go to peel your stencil off, you should have a nicer look to your signs. Somebody one time said, how do you get your lines so crisp on your stencils? I don't. It's kind of hit and miss how they turn out, and I never know until I pull that stencil back what it's gonna look like. I always do tend to have to go back with a fine brush and do some touching up. So it's not a perfect science, especially if you're gonna be doing rustic signs. It's okay to have those imperfections because you don't want it to look perfect. So I know that this video was extremely, probably maybe overwhelming. It was definitely chit-chatty, but I wanted to sit down and kind of address your questions more in depth with more detail, and I hope that I've done that for you today. So if you learned something, if it inspired you, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button, because I definitely have lots more DIY videos for you guys in the future. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in my next DIY video. Bye guys.